Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White. This is our midweek edition. Who we have here is Allan Lengel. Good evening, Allan.
Good evening to you.
And Jim Nardone. If you guys have noticed, Adolph is not here today, but we holding down the fort. We got this under control. So listen, what we want to ask is that if you are watching today, if you're watching, we want you to like, subscribe, and share. We actually want you to hit that like button, subscribe, and we want you to share. And if you want to participate, feel free to participate. You will be able to catch us live this coming Friday evening at 8:30 and Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Okay, we're going to start off with outrage. Who wants to go first? You want to go first, Allan?
I will go first. I just, it's interesting. It's come out now. The New York Times, the Atlantic magazine has published reports with John Kelly, the former chief of staff, the military guy, talking about how Trump not only made fun of the military, and said all the things we've actually heard before, but they were always anonymous. And now he's come out and finally just come out on the record, speaking to the New York Times, the Atlantic, and saying that he also admired Hitler. And John Kelly said, no, you can't admire that guy no matter what. And Trump's like, no, he's done some good things. So I think, so I saw on social media some of Trump's supporters, they go, oh, isn't it amazing? He just suddenly remembers this now, 9 days, before the election, which is more than 9 days. But, and I wrote some of the people and I said, here's 2022 when Peter Baker and his wife, Susan Glasser, wrote a book and mentioned that very thing about him admiring Hitler. That was 2022.
You responded to these people?
I'm sorry?
You responded to these people?
Well, this one guy just kept saying, oh, isn't that interesting how, and I'm like, I sent the link. I posted the link on there and I said, well, it was actually 2022 when it first came up. But I mean, what we've seen here is people don't want to maybe investigate on their own or whatever and do some research. What they do is try to do everything to undermine it with this total. It's really so disheartening to see people don't want to believe it. And it doesn't really matter for them. People who are true MAGAs. I can't think of one possible thing that Trump could be accused of where they would say, oh, that's it. He crossed the line. That guy's crossed the line his whole time, and it doesn't matter to them. The truth doesn't matter to them. They just say, I like him. I have a friend who was talking to another person that she knew down in Florida, and the woman's like, I don't care. I don't care what he does. If he's accused of rape or whatever, I love Donald Trump. I want to run my hands through his hair. I love him. He's a businessman. So,
and that drives you crazy, doesn't it?
Well, it's disheartening. It's disheartening that there is no standard. The country has gone, look, if Richard Nixon had slept with a porn star while he was running for president, guess what? The Republican Party would have went and said, hey, buddy, you got to go. Thomas Eagleton, who was running with McGovern in 1972, it came out that he was treated for depression, that he went and had psychiatric treatment. They said, psychiatric treatment, you saw a psychiatrist, you got to go, buddy. Which that's an extreme of what we've accepted now that's okay. But with, all the other stuff, it used to be family values. When Bill Clinton was, getting a blowjob in the White House, it was like, oh my God.
I did not have sexual relations with that.
Right. And suddenly it's like, oh my God, family values. George Bush came in family values. Now Trump has no, he has no stake in family values. So I mean, it's interesting.
You bring up Bill Clinton and you talk about how he and the sex scandal, but there were people who stood by him and he was able to run another election. They didn't care that he didn't have sex with that woman, whatever the case that may be. The point that I'm making is I think that there's nothing new under the sun. There are people who are going to support whoever, however, it doesn't matter.
But you know what? When we talk about, I agree that look, if you're loyal to a person, whatever, a cult figure, but we talk about having sex, and then we talk about a guy who really encouraged the insurrection, who sat and, as Liz Cheney said, sat and watched TV for hours while they were rioting at the Capitol, and then inflamed things by tweeting stuff about his vice president. All the stuff that he did with Ukraine, withholding arms so he'd investigate the Biden family. We're talking about, as they say, apples and oranges there, but in the end, loyalty is loyalty. Look, we've seen people in prison who have gotten votes.
Yeah. Jim, what's your outrage?
Well, my outrage is all the lying, and it's lying from both sides. Allan, I'm not questioning whether he said it or not. I wasn't there. I think it's poor taste, whether it's the truth or not. All right. I can smell the left from my house right now. They are in fear of losing this election, and they're going to lose this election for one reason. We all know who Donald Trump is. Nobody knows who Kamala Harris is. If she loses, it's going to be that for that reason, and that's an unfortunate.
Well, who is? You tell me who is Donald Trump in your mind?
I'm not talking about Donald Trump.
No, you're saying we know who he is. Tell me. You tell me.
He's been saying these things his whole life, right? So 8 days before
he's a fraud. He's a fraud. He had his look. He created a foundation in New York.
Let Jim get his.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
So you can call him a fraud, but Kamala Harris is for fracking. She's against it. Now she's for it. Now she's against it again. Today, her campaign staff came out and says, "Oh, we're not for fracking. That's garbage. We're not going to expand this stuff." She's just saying she's for it so we can get through this election. That's not fraudulent?
Who said that? Who
The campaign today said she is not promoting expansion of fracking. That was a statement from her campaign today. When she's already told the people of Pennsylvania that, oh, no, she's good with fracking. That's not fraudulent. They're both frauds.
Wait a minute. Is there a distinction? Wait a minute. Jim, let me ask you this. Are you pro Donald Trump?
I didn't say I was pro.
Well, you sound like it. You sound like it.
He's not going to say.
Because I don't agree with you. That is the left. So let's stop for just a minute.
Well, tell me.
Allan.
Well, just tell me. Just say then, yes or no.
I think he's a bad candidate. I think she's a bad candidate. I think they're both bad candidates.
Let me talk
but they're both fraudulent. You're picking out one little part.
Let me say something.
Wait. So here it is. Allan, he said that he's answering the question the way that he want to answer. He's not going to say
he's
yes.
Answering like Kamala would answer it.
That's the
same way.
You're not trying to convince me who I should vote for. You're telling me who I should vote for.
No, I'm asking you. I'm asking you. You're doing Kamala. I'll criticize her. She sometimes just dodges like Trump does too. Trump is like, I'm not doing that interview. You're going to fact check. Are you kidding me? Look. You talk about changing ideas. Trump was pro-choice. Then he was anti-choice. Now he's pro, for the states. He says, "Oh, this is
all evolving."
Yeah, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to change your stance on something. Look, on fracking, I think, and maybe I haven't read what you're reading, but my impression is when she says, "I'm not for expansion of fracking, but I'm not for outlawing fracking." Is that a fair characterization?
We're going to have to ask her. Why didn't she come out and explain it to us and let her campaign do it? Why isn't she coming out and saying, this is all garbage. I'm for this or I'm for that. She hasn't said anything.
She has said it. She has said before, she was against fracking when she was running. Then she was with Joe Biden. And she's like, look, she is moderated. She's moved quite to the center during this campaign.
She gets the heat from the left, and the left saying, what do you mean you're for fracking? And she says, well, I'm not really for fracking. I'm not for expanding it. I'm for getting elected. That's not fraudulent.
Look, I don't think that they're
right. Donald Trump. He's the man. He's integrity.
Look,
I never said that.
Right. I don't
remember saying that.
I don't think any of us would disagree that they're both politicking, as I call it. They're both politicking, and that's to be expected in this season. So, and I think all of us, I believe a lot of us are just tired of. We want to get it over with.
I
Whoever is
agree.
going to be the leader of these United States of America, that will be decided. We will know on November the 6th when we wake up.
But
So
I'd say it's a false equivalent to compare the integrity of both of them, because
No, it's
Donald
not.
Trump is a
That's wrong.
rapist. He's a fraud. He's
Oh
defrauded people. He hasn't paid his bills to people. He had his
What are we just
university.
going to parrot CNN the rest of the
Alan,
we got 20
let me
more
ask
minutes
you
to
a
parrot
question.
CNN? Is that all
Well,
we are?
Alan,
well,
let me ask you a
Parroting
question.
CNN?
Jim, I read.
Hey,
I
hold on,
read.
hold on.
No.
I read too.
Wait a minute,
Let me
Jim.
ask you a question,
No.
Alan.
Yes.
Yes. Is the DNC paying you?
No.
Because you
You know
sound like
what?
it.
Yeah, you know what? That's total bullshit. I read the Wall Street Journal. I read the New York Times. I read a ton of publications.
Yeah,
It's not
all owned
only
by Jeff
that.
Bezos. That's
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos'
See,
little
that's
bitches.
that you talk about the Republican speak. It's everything's dismissive.
Jeff Bezos
Okay,
owns the Washington
Hitler.
Post.
Okay, you go for the Hitler lover. Let's vote for the Hitler lover. Let's
Listen.
just do that. I
Okay,
got to
Where's
take
the
over
emotion?
Adolf.
Let's talk about facts. People are hurting, and they're going to probably elect Donald Trump because they're hurting, because they don't care about
That's
the Hitler
your wishes.
comment.
Your wishes.
Well, look,
He's
I
not
don't
going
know.
to win.
Listen, I'm going to say this. I don't know who to win. All I know is when we wake up November the 6th, we'll know. But
Probably not.
I'm going to lighten up this conversation just a little bit.
We should take a commercial break real quick, and that way we can go. We can take a break, and we also have to bring our guests in.
I want to bring it up before we take a commercial break.
Yeah, go ahead.
I saw this. I see this article. I don't know if it's true or not, but where this teenager took his own life after falling in love with an AI chat bot, and now his family is suing the creators. So we'll talk about that when we get back.
Michigan, this is Barack Obama. I want to talk with you about the Alyssa Slotkin I know. Alyssa is a true public servant who has dedicated her career to serving the American people, no matter who is in the White House. I saw that leadership and character up close. Alyssa is the kind of leader we need. Tough, independent, and effective. She'll get the job done. And she will make you proud.
I'm Alyssa Slotkin, and I approve this message.
Hello, Detroit. Election Day is November 5th, but why wait? Beginning Saturday, October 19th, you can vote early at one of Detroit's 14 early vote centers. Early voting runs through Sunday, November 3rd, so let your voice be heard and vote early. If you're voting by absentee ballot, return your ballot as soon as possible. For more information, visit our website or give us a call. And remember to vote, because it's not only your right, it's the right thing to do.
Well, all right, we're back at Detroit in Black and White. I just talked about, mentioned before we went on break about my outrage. It is just unbelievable that someone will fall in love with AI. And I think
Right on, Cynthia.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Cynthia.
That's crazy. I just, to me, that's outrageous.
There was
and
a
it's
movie,
insane.
Phoenix. What's his name? Phoenix Joaquin or whatever.
Phoenix.
Joaquin Phoenix. He. There was a movie where he fell in love with an AI robot or whatever, and he had conversations with it. I mean, look, that's going to happen. There are going to be programs. They're so sophisticated now. You're going to be able to call and have a conversation with somebody, and people are going to, have relationships.
Somebody or artificial,
Well,
but it's
artificial.
gonna be interesting. This mom is suing. I'm like, who are you suing? I mean, I'm not trying to be funny that you're suing the creators, but the AI isn't that your imagination? Isn't it art? And how do you hold them responsible for your son's mental state? But anyway, that's my outrage. I think we have a guest.
I'll just say one real quick thing. I think it's like the internet. The internet's been the Wild West. We've been trying to figure out how to regulate it, how to legislate it, and I think AI is another world of trying to figure out what the limitations are of free speech and the limitations of artificial intelligence. And so
yeah. So we have a guest. We're gonna have a guest, Miss Latoya Marie Willis. She is a candidate for the Court of Appeals, the area that covers Genesee, Macomb, and Oakland County. She has over 21 years experience in public service. She's a Wayne County prosecutor. She's someone that I've known for a very, very long time. She's a fine attorney. And this past Saturday, we had the other candidate. So now we have LaToya Marie Willis.
Well,
Good
she's
evening.
got to unmute herself.
You got to unmute yourself, Toya.
Oh,
All right.
there we go.
I'm sorry, LaToya Willis. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I am well. Thank you
That's
all for
good.
allowing me to come on here this evening with you.
Okay. So how's it going on the campaign trail?
Phew, 13 more days. It's been busy. It's, never done anything like this before. It's busy.
Okay.
LaToya, can you tell us something about yourself?
Absolutely. So I've been, let's say I'm a wife, first of all, of 24 years. My husband and I have been married for 24 years.
Wow.
I have 2 children who are both in college now. And for the last 21, almost 22 years now, I have been a public servant in the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office as an assistant prosecutor.
What kind of cases are you prosecuting?
So right now I lead up the mortgage and deed fraud unit. And I've been doing that for the last 7 years. It's a unique type of a task force. I think it's the only one in the state, actually. Before that, I did special victims unit, where I specialized in elder abuse and vulnerable adults. Before that, general trials, exams.
So
Go ahead.
So why Court of Appeals?
The Court of Appeals is actually is the only reason I would leave the prosecutor's office. I have actually loved my time in the prosecutor's office. But for me, the Court of Appeals is the place for me because the work that's being done in our trial courtrooms, all of the trial courtrooms, is important work, very important work. And if we don't have individuals sitting in the Court of Appeals who have experience and an actual understanding of what happens in those courtrooms, a lot of that work that's being done can be for naught. And so I have chosen the Court of Appeals for that reason. I believe the experience that I've had in the prosecutor's office will do me well and will serve the community well with me there.
Okay. So with the Court of Appeals, do you have any experience of writing appeals or anything like that since you've been in the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office? I know you talked about what sections that you've worked in the office, but do you have any experience doing appeals?
I do. I have spent a little bit of time in our appeals. And actually, when I first started in the prosecutor's office, I began as an intern. And that internship was in the forfeiture, abandoned property is what it's called now, nuisance abatement. But when I first came in, it was a project that was being created by the now Mayor Duggan. And it was my assignment as an intern, basically, to do the legal research behind this program, to do the research, to write, briefs that were related to these cases that were being filed, to do the investigation into the legality of the processes, the case laws that would be applicable. And so I spent my first 2 years really writing as an intern. That was really all that I did, was focus on research and writing for this program that we were launching.
Let me ask you, being a prosecutor, that's kind of a pretty action-packed job, and you're engaged with people, and as opposed to the Court of Appeals, where it's a kind of a more an intellectual exercise of research and wrestling with the law and trying to figure out what's are you going to get bored? Is that you find it boring, that it might be more boring? Do you worry about that, or do you find it intellectually challenging, or what?
I think I'll definitely find it challenging. Will I miss the courtroom? I'm certain I'll miss aspects of the courtroom, no doubt. But I believe that I'll find the Court of Appeals to be challenging. When I took the assignment for the mortgage and deed fraud unit, there were many people who looked at me like, why in the world would you want to do that? But for me, it was the ability to learn something new. I hadn't really focused on, transfers of real property and mortgage fraud and all of that previously. So it was, for me, an opportunity to learn something more. And I'm always wanting to learn something more to grow. When I served about 7 years on the Attorney Grievance Commission. And during that time, I had an opportunity to be exposed to a lot of different subject matters, different cases that are being, brought to that commission. And I loved it. I loved the opportunity to go and find out more about this subject area that I, had never been exposed to in the prosecutor's office. So for me, it's an opportunity to grow. I don't like to be stagnant. I like to learn and to grow.
I have a quick question, just a little bit off, but when you talk about mortgage deeds and all that stuff, I know I've done some coverage of that where people are stealing homes. They're swiping, they're doing fraudulent things to basically take possession of homes. How pervasive is that in Wayne County?
So I always like to point out that it's not just Wayne County. I think it just so happens that Wayne County has a task force that deals specifically with the investigation of those. But I'll guarantee you this, anywhere that you have properties that are distressed, anywhere that you have people that are looking to find houses at a cost that's below regular sale value, you have a problem with mortgage and deed fraud. I don't see the mortgage fraud as much, though I have been seeing an increase in it, but you see it often. And I'm certain it's not just in Wayne County, but it is problematic. We have more cases than we can handle at times, for certain. And it's a sad thing to see.
So, Toya, look, I'm sorry, Attorney Willis, you in your campaign, what are some of the I'm going to say hills that you've had to address in this campaign? Because it appears to be an uphill battle. You have there's one opponent, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. How much support are you getting?
So it's been interesting for me. So when I'm going to go ahead and show my naivety right now. When I started this process, because the position is entitled nonpartisan, I thought that it would be non-political. I've never really been involved in politics of any sort. My career has been in the prosecutor's office serving people. So I didn't really think I'd have to get involved in politics. I learned right off bat, first day collecting signatures, that this has been a very political process. And it's been interesting because people kind of want you to fit into a box. And when you don't fit into a box, which I don't, people can feel a certain way about that. And so support that I thought that I would get from certain places, I ended up really not getting, because people had ideas or had formed ideas about what they thought I believed, and vice versa. The other way, people that I thought, might not support me ended up supporting me. So it's been an interesting process.
Do people ask when you're out there campaigning, do people ask, well, what do you stand for? What do you tell them?
Absolutely, they ask. And I think, I'm sure it's because of, some of the things that you all started off the program talking about. Tensions are just so high. Mm-hmm. And people want to know, are you Republican? Are you a Democrat? And, the answer that, I'm neither, it's nonpartisan, just a lot of people cannot buy it. And
you're not allowed.
Right.
Right. They're like, no way, you have to be one or the other. But the truth of the matter is, even aside from the nonpartisan designation, I really am not one or the other. I never have been. And so, people are so disgusted and they feel a certain way about judges who make decisions along party lines. But in order to have judges that are not doing that, we have to allow judges to be nonpartisan. Right. We have to be willing to not try to stuff judicial candidates into one box or the other, because at the end of the day, that's not what you want inside of the courtroom. I have never once had anyone walk into a courtroom and ask the judge, are you a Democrat or are you a Republican? Nobody cares. What you want to know is whether or not that judge is experienced, understands the law, and can handle your case. That's really the bottom line.
Right, right. Toya, I trust me, I understand better than most people think, because I've said many times, even on this show, that it depends on the issue. For me, I may be much more liberal on one particular issue, but very conservative on another issue. And unfortunately, we live in a world where they force you to try to pick a box. And when you're running for judge, it doesn't matter what box it is, because you're supposed to follow the law, right? You should be fair. You should be impartial. You should be respectful. You should have integrity. Those are the things that matter. But it appears, I'll say from my standpoint, and especially because of where I find myself, that does not seem to matter. But yet, when they go inside of the courtroom, they want it to matter.
Yeah.
That is just ridiculous to me.
Can we take a commercial break and we'll come right back?
Sure.
If you could play those last two ads, please.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Moss. I have over 4,000 signatures that say I should sit on the bench in 36th District Court. But the bureaucrats had me kicked off the ballot because they don't want you to elect someone who stands for fair and equal justice. And as a defense attorney, I've experienced injustice firsthand. Join the movement. Write in Vanessa Moss. Write in Vanessa Moss for 36th District Court. Remember, Vanessa Moss.
Neighborhood beautification. That's very important to Detroit. It's very important to block clubs, organizations, and people who live in the community. We got started with 2 lots and a vision of a treehouse center. Because if we can take these blighted lots, Detroit give us grants to be able to do something with them that the community wants, it's a plus, because we're bringing our neighborhoods back to where we want them to be, where they should be, all because I live in Detroit.
Okay, Attorney Willis, for all our viewers, those that are watching live tonight, and they'll be watching the rest of the week and the next, few days, what is it that you want to tell our viewers about LaToya Willis and why they should select you as their next judge for the Court of Appeals?
Yes, so I believe I'm the best candidate for this position because I have literally dedicated my legal career to public service. That is what I have done, and it's what I will continue to do as a judge on the Court of Appeals. I could have left the prosecutor's office long ago for more lucrative opportunities, but I stayed because I have a desire to serve the community. I believe I'm the best candidate because I am actually the only candidate in my race who has handled thousands of cases. I've handled hundreds of jury trials and bench trials and evidentiary hearings and motions. I have a clear understanding of exactly what happens in the courtroom. I have the experience that's necessary when we're talking about an error-correcting court. I believe it's incumbent on a judge that sits in an error-correcting position to have knowledge and experience about what happens in those positions that they're tasked with correcting. I'm actually the only candidate who meets the minimum requirement before election of having a minimum of 5 years practice experience. I'm that only candidate. I exceed the minimum requirement. And so I believe that I'm the most well-rounded and I am the best candidate for this seat. And so I'm asking for the people's vote in Macomb, Oakland, and Genesee for that reason.
And how can people get in contact with your campaign?
So I have a website. It is willisforjustice.com, WILLISFORJUSTICE.com. And also am on Facebook, LaToya M. Willis for Court of Appeals.
Okay. All right, Jim, Allan, you have any other questions before we let Attorney Willis go?
I just want to say, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say real quick, what are you doing in terms of campaigning? What's the sort of, what's your activities in terms of getting the word out? And are you knocking on doors or going to malls or what's?
I am everywhere. I have since for the last year, I have literally been to as many places as I could go. My goal is to meet the voters. So, I'm out there with the voters. If there's an opportunity for me to interact with voters, I'm there.
Jim,
All
you
right.
had something that you want to ask?
I just want to say almost 28 years as a police officer. I spent a lot of time working with the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. I woke up a lot of prosecutors at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and I can tell you it is a job for the people. And I think the community needs to know how much effort goes into that prosecutor's office. They're some of the best attorneys anywhere in that office, and I'm grateful for the experience I had with some of the attorneys there.
Thank you, Jim. And I appreciate the work that you all do. The first responders first on the scene. It's hard work.
I'm glad to be done.
All right.
Thank you.
Latoya, we will see you and we will talk to you soon. God bless you.
Thank you. You
Thanks.
too.
Good luck. Good luck there.
Thank you.
So we are getting ready to wrap up another edition of Detroit Black and White. If you're watching, remember to write in Vanessa Moss for judge for the 36th District Court, the non-incumbent seat, which is a 6-year term. You can reach me at Vanessa Moss for 36th District Court.com. You can catch me on Facebook. Of course, you can see me on Detroit in Black and White every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, or you can see me out here in these here streets or in the courtroom. I'm out here every single day. Thank you so much, Eric Brown, for tuning in, and for whoever else is tuning in. I didn't see any other.
Cynthia. I think it's Cynthia.
Hey,
Thank
Cynthia,
you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I didn't get a chance to read our comment because we usually try to read the comments. But
You said Trump's a monster. Jim, or Jim's a monster. Trump. I'm confused. One of those. This might be back.
I want to say, look, I apologize, Jim, if I get a little heated about it, but I feel like here's when we have conversations, and it's not just you who does this, but I feel like people shut down information and they're totally dismissive when, like, John Kelly, who's a person of integrity, who came from the military, who was a head of Homeland Security, who was the chief of staff, when he makes comments and it's just dismissed out that let's believe Trump, give him the benefit of the doubt, and stirring
the pot because he has integrity because he was in the service.
Well, no, but I'm saying that but when I'm reading things and trying to and it's shut down as being dismissive, like, oh, CNN, yeah, CNN. It's, as a journalist, I find it off-putting for when people do that, and it's a way of people being dismissive, like when people
No,
say,
it's not dismissive. You don't think this was a coordinated attack by the Kamala Harris campaign?
Look,
a last-minute coordinated attack to attack the former president? Of course it is.
Well, you know what? Yes, it could be, but you know what? He had said, I will stay out of this unless he starts talking about stuff that I think is frightening, like using the military internally against his enemies in his citizens. And he just said, I can't shut up anymore. He's spoken privately. He's been the source of this for years now, and he finally came forward. I mean, it's not like he's kept his mouth shut, but
and you can criticize both sides. So the president just came out, the current president said we need to lock up the candidate for the presidency. That's not troubling to people.
He shouldn't say that. But I find a lot more other things troubling as well.
Sure. Sorry, Vanessa.
That's okay. This wraps up our edition of Detroit Black and White. I'll be so glad when November the 6th get here. You just don't know. All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.